The Musk family, one of the most powerful and influential in the world, has always been a symbol of innovation, leadership, and financial power. Elon Musk, the patriarch, built an empire with his groundbreaking companies like Tesla, SpaceX, and Neuralink. He not only transformed the worlds of technology and energy, but also created a family legacy that seemed invincible. However, what many don't know is that behind this facade of success, there lies a story of personal challenges and decisions that could change everything. The story we're about to tell isn't about Elon Musk, but about his son, X Musk, a young man with a personality that stands out even in such peculiar family. From the moment he was born, X was surrounded by an aura of mystery. His name, chosen in an eccentric manner by his parents, quickly became a topic of discussion around the world. But while the attention was on his name and what it might represent, few imagined that this young boy, raised in an environment of innovation and high expectations, could have a completely different view of the world. When X turned 18, the world watched closely to see which path he would take. With a father like Elon Musk, the pressure to follow in his footsteps was immense. Musk had grand plans for the future of humanity, but unlike many young heirs who might be inclined to take over the family business, X began to step away from the limelight. He was never the type of person who liked to live in his father's shadow. In fact, he always had a completely different vision of how the world should be shaped. In his early years, X was raised in a very unique way, with a focus on creativity and out-of-the-box thinking. Elon, always an advocate for a different kind of education, wanted his son to be more than just an heir to a family empire. He wanted X to be an innovator in his own right, someone who would bring something new and unexpected to the world. However, as X reached adulthood, he found himself facing a tough choice: follow his father's footsteps or forge his own path. The decision he made, however, was something no one could predict. Instead of taking over one of his father's companies or becoming more directly involved in the family's technological innovations, X made a decision that shook the very foundations of the family empire. He decided to invest in a completely different field. Rather than follow in the family tradition, the young Musk began to immerse himself in the arts, specifically the world of filmmaking and visual arts. He started a series of projects that challenged the norms of the industry, aiming to create films and immersive experiences that questioned the status quo of storytelling. Many saw this as an escape from the family business, while others began to wonder if this choice could truly change the power dynamics within the Musk empire. X's decision wasn't just a simple career shift. It was a declaration of independence, a message that he wasn't willing to follow in his father's footsteps and live in the shadow of a massive empire. And most remarkably, his vision was beginning to attract the attention of big names in the cinematic and cultural industries, who saw him as a new creative force. For Elon Musk, his son's decision was undoubtedly a shock. He had always expected X to follow the family legacy and get involved with the companies he had spent years building. Instead, his son seemed to be choosing a completely different path, one that could even be seen as a threat to the empire he had worked so hard to consolidate. But what appeared to be just a simple change of direction turned into something far more complex. What would happen if Elon Musk's son, someone with the potential to transform the film industry, started questioning the very essence of the Musk empire? The implications of this decision were far deeper than anyone imagined, and the true consequences were only just beginning to unfold. As X's ventures into the world of arts and filmmaking began to gain traction, it became evident that his choices were more than just a phase. The projects he embarked on were groundbreaking, challenging traditional norms in storytelling, filmmaking, and even audience engagement. He was creating immersive experiences that blurred the lines between reality and fiction, using advanced technology to redefine the cinematic experience. As a result, the young Musk became a hot topic in cultural circles and among Hollywood elites. But his decision to turn his back on the family business wasn't without its challenges. X had grown up in an environment that demanded nothing less than perfection. Elon Musk's success was built on the idea of relentless progress and an unwavering commitment to innovation. The Musk family was built on the foundation of hard work and discipline. To step away from that, especially for a world that didn't fully understand his vision, was seen by many as a reckless gamble. In the early days of his new career, X faced intense scrutiny. People close to the Musk empire, including some of Elon's closest advisors, didn't quite understand what he was trying to achieve. To them, the path X was taking seemed frivolous. The entertainment industry was notoriously risky and volatile, and no matter how brilliant the project, there was no guarantee of success. While Elon had created industries from the ground up, X was stepping into a realm filled with uncertainty. Many wondered if he had what it took to succeed without the wealth and resources that came from the Musk family legacy. At the same time, X was dealing with a different kind of pressure, the pressure to prove himself. Despite his apparent independence, he knew that his actions were still being closely watched by the world. The Musk name carried weight, and with that weight came expectations. To some, it seemed as though no matter what X did, he would always be viewed as the son of Elon Musk. He would always be compared to his father and the incredible achievements that Musk had made over the years. The desire to break free from that label and create something uniquely his own weighed heavily on him. However, X was undeterred. His determination to push boundaries and redefine the arts only grew stronger. He began working with some of the best in the industry, collaborated with directors, producers, and artists who shared his passion for challenging the traditional structure of filmmaking. They were drawn to his unique vision and his willingness to experiment with new formats and technologies. He wasn't just making films. He was creating experiences that engaged audiences in ways they had never been before. But as X's projects gained momentum, they started attracting attention from some unexpected quarters. Not everyone was on board with his unconventional approach to filmmaking. Traditionalists in the industry, as well as some of his own family members, were skeptical of his vision. They questioned whether he was truly cut out for this world, or if his success was merely the result of his last name. Elon Musk, in particular, was faced with a dilemma. He had always been a champion of his son's creativity, but now he was confronted with a reality he hadn't anticipated. Was X's choice a betrayal of the family legacy, or was it simply a sign of a new generation carving its own path? As the days passed, the tension between father and son began to grow. Elon had always encouraged his children to think for themselves, but he had never imagined that one of them would step so far outside the family's core business interests. There were private conversations between Elon and X that became increasingly strained. Elon had built a colossal empire, one that could transform the future of humanity, and now his own flesh and blood seemed to be turning his back on it. But despite these tensions, X remained resolute. He didn't see his choices as a rejection of his family or their legacy. He simply saw it as a chance to create something new, something that would speak to the world in a way that was uniquely his. He was determined to push the boundaries of art and creativity, to prove that the Musk name could be synonymous with more than just technological advancement. The challenge that lay ahead was not just about succeeding in the entertainment industry. It was about redefining what it meant to be a Musk. X wanted to prove that he could thrive in his own right, without relying on the vast resources and power of the family empire. But in doing so, he risked alienating himself from the very people who had shaped his life. The stakes were higher than ever, and the pressure to succeed weighed heavily on his shoulders. And then, just as X seemed to be gaining ground in his new career, an unexpected twist occurred. One of his major projects, a groundbreaking immersive film that had been months in the making, was suddenly pulled from production. The decision came from his father's closest business partners, who believed that X's involvement in the project was putting the Musk family's reputation at risk. It was a move that sent shockwaves through X's team, and the entire entertainment industry took notice. Was this a warning shot from the Musk empire? A sign that X's decisions were beginning to have far-reaching consequences? The situation was only made more complicated by the fact that Elon Musk, despite his support for his son's creative endeavors, was deeply invested in the success of his companies. The tension between his love for his son and his loyalty to the empire he had built created a rift that neither father nor son knew how to bridge. This was no longer just about art versus business. It was about family, legacy, and the future of an empire. As the months passed, the strain between X and his father, Elon Musk, deepened. The unexpected cancellation of X's major project was only the beginning. What followed was a period of uncertainty for both father and son, as their paths seemed to diverge further and further. But in this time of tension, something began to shift within both of them. For X, the cancellation was a wake-up call. He had always believed in the power of art to change the world, but now he was faced with a harsh reality that In some circles, his vision was seen as a threat to the legacy of his father's empire. The weight of the Musk name was more powerful than he had ever anticipated. It wasn't just about the project he wanted to create. It was about the expectations that came with being a part of such a famous family. In the wake of the project's cancellation, X began to question his own motivations. Was he truly creating for the sake of creativity, or was he simply trying to prove something to his father, to the world, and even to himself? He realized that, while he had distanced himself from the family empire, he still carried the weight of that legacy on his shoulders. The decision to pursue a different path, one away from technology and into the arts, had seemed like an act of defiance at first. But now, X wondered if he had been searching for validation in all the wrong places. During this time, X took a step back from his usual creative pursuits and spent more time reflecting. He sought counsel from people who weren't in the industry, people who had nothing to do with the Musk family name. It was during these conversations that he began to gain a deeper understanding of who he was and what he truly wanted from his life. X realized that the answer to his internal conflict wasn't to reject the family legacy altogether, but to find a way to merge the creative freedom he longed for with the power and resources that came with his last name. Meanwhile, Elon Musk was also undergoing his own transformation. The cancellation of his son's project had forced him to confront the reality that X was no longer the young boy he could control. As a father, Elon had always been fiercely protective of his children, wanting the best for them. But as X grew older and more independent, Elon began to realize that his son's path was not one he could shape, no matter how hard he tried. And as much as he wanted X to follow in his footsteps, he also understood that his son was not him. Elon's journey was not easy. He was accustomed to being in control of everything, from the trajectory of his companies to the future of humanity itself. But his son's decisions made him question everything. Elon had built a massive empire, yes, but in the process, he had neglected his personal relationships. His work had consumed him, leaving little time for understanding the desires and ambitions of those closest to him. The realization that X was carving his own path made Elon wonder if, in his relentless pursuit of progress, he had overlooked something just as important, the human side of his family. As X continued to reflect on his own journey, he began to understand that he didn't need to follow in his father's footsteps to be successful. He didn't need to carry the weight of the Musk name on his shoulders to achieve greatness. But what he did need was to reconcile his own ambitions with the reality of his family's legacy. He realized that, rather than seeking to escape his father's shadow, he needed to find a way to coexist with it, to use the resources and connections available to him, not as a crutch, but as a springboard for his own vision. This epiphany marked a turning point for X. He began to approach his projects with a renewed sense of purpose, blending his creativity with the innovative spirit of his family. Rather than working against the tide of his family's legacy, he began to harness the power of that legacy to fuel his own ideas. The merger of technology and art became the cornerstone of his new projects. Instead of making films for the sake of art alone, he started creating immersive experiences that bridged the gap between entertainment, education, and technological advancement, areas where his father had excelled. For Elon, seeing his son shift in this way was both a relief and a revelation. The growing distance between them had been difficult to accept, but as he watched X navigate the challenges of his own journey, he realized that his son was finding his own way to make a mark on the world. Elon had always believed that the key to success was to push the boundaries of what was possible, to take risks and innovate. Now he saw that X was doing just that, but in a way that was uniquely his own. The transformation was gradual, but unmistakable. X had stopped viewing his father's empire as something he needed to reject, and started seeing it as something that could be integrated into his own creative vision. This change in perspective allowed him to move forward with confidence, knowing that he could build something new without having to break away from the legacy that had shaped him. He no longer felt the need to prove himself to anyone, least of all his father. Instead, X focused on the work itself, letting his creations speak for themselves. At the same time, Elon began to understand that the family empire didn't have to be a burden for his son. In fact, it could be a powerful tool to help X achieve his own dreams. The father and son, once at odds, were beginning to see the value in each other's paths. And while they had once been on opposite sides of the spectrum, Their respective journeys were now beginning to converge in unexpected ways. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, the Musk family began to rebuild its relationship on a new foundation. One that was based not on expectations or pressure, but on mutual respect for each other's strengths and visions. The transformation of X was just the beginning of a new chapter, not just for him, but for the entire Musk family. As X began to embrace the fusion of his father's technological legacy with his own creative pursuits, his projects started to take on a life of their own. But this journey wasn't without its challenges. The industry that had once doubted him was now starting to pay attention, but with attention came scrutiny. The entertainment world, while intrigued by X's unconventional approach, was still a world of fierce competition and high stakes. Every step he took was being watched, not just by critics, but by the ever-growing public that had grown accustomed to the drama and spectacle of the Musk family. X's breakthrough came with the release of a project that integrated immersive storytelling with real-time AI interactions. The film, or rather, the experience, was unlike anything the world had ever seen. Audiences weren't just watching a story unfold on the screen. They were part of it. Using cutting-edge technology, X had crafted a world where viewers could interact with characters, influence the plot, and even change the outcome based on their decisions. It was an experience that blurred the line between film, gaming, and virtual reality, a perfect blend of technology and creativity. The project was met with a level of attention that no one expected. Critics were divided, but audiences were captivated. The immersive nature of the experience, combined with the high-quality storytelling, left people wondering if this was the future of cinema. It was a groundbreaking moment, one that put X at the forefront of a new wave in entertainment. Yet, despite the positive feedback, there were still those who questioned whether X had truly earned his success. Many in the entertainment industry continued to view his projects through the lens of his family's name, not his individual talent. At the same time, X's relationship with his father was evolving. The decision to support X's new path was no longer an issue of contention. Elon had come to understand that X's projects weren't just personal pursuits. They were his way of shaping the future in his own image. While Elon still had his reservations about X's chosen field, he had to admit that his son was succeeding in ways that no one had anticipated. But even as the Musk name carried a certain weight in the industry, it also brought a unique set of challenges. X faced a dilemma that few people could understand. The question of whether his success was truly his own, or whether it was simply the result of being Elon Musk's son. To many, no matter how innovative or groundbreaking X's work was, it would always be tied to the family legacy. The constant comparisons, the scrutiny of every decision, made it difficult for him to find peace with his achievements. Elon, too, began to grapple with this paradox. He understood that his son was creating something new and meaningful, but he also knew that the public's perception of their family would always be a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it opened doors for X, giving him opportunities that would have been impossible for anyone else. On the other hand, it created a barrier between X and the rest of the world, a world that was keen to judge him not just as an artist, but as a product of his famous last name. The public's fascination with the Musk family also led to increased media coverage of their personal lives. Every move X made, every decision he took, was under a microscope. There were whispers that his creative success wasn't as much about talent as it was about the resources available to him. The weight of these assumptions began to take its toll on X. At times, he found himself questioning the authenticity of his own success. Was he truly creating something of value, or was he merely benefiting from the world's obsession with his father? But amid these challenges, something remarkable began to happen. The projects X had poured his heart into started to gain recognition beyond the industry. Critics who had initially dismissed him as just another rich kid with a famous last name began to acknowledge the depth of his work. Film festivals, once skeptical of his unconventional approach, now sought out his projects, eager to showcase the innovative storytelling that X had introduced. Slowly but surely, the public's perception of him began to change. He was no longer seen as just Elon Musk's son. He was being recognized as a visionary in his own right. This newfound recognition wasn't just a victory for X. It was a turning point for the Musk family. Elon, who had always placed such a heavy emphasis on technology, began to see the value in art as well. He realized that, While his son's projects didn't fit into the mold of the companies he had built, they were still valuable in their own way. X's ability to blend technology with creativity opened up new possibilities for the Musk family, ones that Elon had never considered before. For the first time, Elon began to see the potential for collaboration between their worlds. But even as the recognition grew, X continued to face personal struggles. The internal battle between his desire for independence and the pressure of the Musk legacy was ongoing. He still couldn't shake the feeling that no matter how much he achieved, it would never be enough to escape the shadow of his father's empire. It was a weight that few people could understand, let alone bear. Every success, every accolade, came with the knowledge that his family name would always be a part of the narrative. Despite these challenges, X kept pushing forward. He understood that, in the end, the only thing that truly mattered was the work itself. His goal wasn't to prove anything to anyone. It was to create something that would stand the test of time. And as the world began to take notice of his unique approach, it became clear that X's vision was slowly becoming a reality. In the midst of all this, Elon remained a quiet presence. While their relationship had evolved, Elon knew that X's journey was far from over. The empire he had built wasn't just about financial success or technological advancements. It was about leaving a lasting impact on the world. And as X found his place in this broader vision, Elon came to realize that the future of the Musk family might be more complex than he had ever imagined. The culmination of X's work in the entertainment industry marked the beginning of a new era not just for him, but for the entire Musk family. With each new project, X had established himself as a leader in a realm far removed from the world of rockets and electric cars. His groundbreaking use of technology to tell stories had made waves across various industries, from filmmaking to virtual reality and beyond. Yet despite the public recognition and accolades, there remained an undeniable question. Could he truly escape the shadow of his father's legacy and build something that was wholly his own? X's latest venture, a hybrid experience that combined live-action performance with real-time audience interaction through AI, became his most ambitious and far-reaching project to date. It was not just a film, not just a video game, but a complete immersion into a new world, one where viewers didn't just watch the story unfold, but became part of it. This project, dubbed the Nexus, revolutionized the way stories were told, creating an entirely new genre that combined art, technology, and human interaction. It wasn't just a success, it was a cultural shift. The launch of the Nexus was unlike anything the entertainment world had ever seen. Audiences around the world gathered in massive digital spaces, participating in an experience that allowed them to shape the outcome of the narrative. The project was a resounding success, breaking records for engagement and creating a new standard for what immersive storytelling could be. For X, this was the moment he had worked so hard for. It was proof that his vision, though once seen as unconventional, had the power to change the future. But even as the accolades piled up, X remained conflicted. The success of the Nexus had proven that he was a visionary in his own right, but it also made him realize that no matter how far he strayed from the Musk family empire, his connection to it could never truly be severed. The media attention, the public fascination with his family, and even the way he approached innovation all carried traces of the legacy that had shaped his life. It was a realization that struck X deeply. He would never be able to escape the influence of his father, nor did he want to. Instead, he had learned to redefine that influence. In the aftermath of the project's success, X found himself facing a new kind of challenge. The entertainment industry had changed, but so had the world at large. The lines between technology, entertainment, and human connection were becoming increasingly blurred. People weren't just looking for stories. They were looking for experiences that made them feel connected to something greater than themselves. And X had the resources, the vision, and the drive to create those experiences. But this time, it wasn't just about proving himself. It was about pushing the boundaries of what could be achieved when art and technology came together in harmony. Meanwhile, Elon Musk watched from the sidelines with a sense of quiet pride. His son had proven not only that he could succeed, but that he could do so on his own terms. Elon had always believed that the key to success was about pushing the envelope, thinking differently, and creating a better future. And X had done just that, but in his own way. Elon realized that As much as he tried to shape his son's path, it was ultimately X's own journey that mattered most. He had created his own legacy, one that intertwined with the Musk name, but wasn't bound by it. The relationship between father and son had come full circle. Where once there had been tension, there was now a deep understanding. They no longer saw each other as competitors or rivals, but as collaborators, each contributing in their own way to the vision of a future that was as much about art and humanity as it was about technology and innovation. X had built something incredible, but it had also forged a path that was uniquely his, one that paid homage to the Musk legacy while simultaneously breaking new ground in the world of creative expression. For X, the journey wasn't just about proving to the world that he was more than just a name. It was about finding his own place in a rapidly changing world. He realized that he didn't need to break away from his father's empire to succeed. In fact, by embracing it, he had unlocked opportunities that others could only dream of. The key was not to reject the past, but to build on it, taking the best parts of the legacy and applying them to a new vision for the future. As X continued to push the boundaries of technology and creativity, he also began to focus on something that had long been absent from his life: family. The journey had been difficult, and there had been moments where he had felt isolated, questioning whether he was ever truly in control of his destiny. But with the support of his father and a newfound sense of clarity, X realized that his greatest strength was not in his ability to innovate, but in his ability to connect with others, to create experiences that brought people together. And so, as he moved forward with new projects and new ideas, X began to cultivate a new sense of balance in his life. He continued to push the boundaries of entertainment, technology, and human connection. But now, there was a deeper purpose behind everything he did. It wasn't just about the technology. It was about creating something meaningful, something that could change the way people experience the world. And for the first time, X understood that this was a true legacy he was meant to build, a legacy that was all his own. The Musk family, once divided by ambition and differing visions, had come to a new understanding. Elon had found peace in the knowledge that his son was forging his own path, while X had come to appreciate the value of his family's legacy, not as a burden, but as a foundation upon which he could build something extraordinary. In the end, X's journey wasn't just about creating something groundbreaking. It was about finding the balance between innovation and legacy, independence and connection. And with that balance, he was ready to face the future, not as the son of Elon Musk, but as X, a visionary in his own right, with the world at his feet.